So, if you're new here, my name is Tariq Peters. I'm a brand authority strategist and I'm an accredited PR practitioner, right? So, I work with fractional CFOs and independent finance leaders to build a level of brand authority. So, for me, brand authority is really simple. It's your personal brand multiplied by your business brand, multiplied by your campaign brand. When all those three brands align, that gives you a level of brand authority that makes you more visible and credible to your desired target audience, right? And that will drive more leads, that would in turn drive more clients into your business and ultimately more revenue for your business, right? So that is me. That is what I have been working towards, and that is what I've been doing since July 2024 when I've embarked on the journey of building a seven-figure business and building a community of like-minded B2B service operators and just a community of people who enjoy the idea of building a brand, right, to become more visible and credible. So with this in particular, right, I have been uploading one long form video every single day since January the 1st. And, it didn't come without its sort of trials and tribulations and challenges, but ultimately we're still going. I'm still going strong. I've been uploading and I've learned so much about the process of recording content, building my level of camera confidence, and ultimately just understanding the power of video content and how you are able to develop that video content to translate within all the various different things that you decide to do within your business, right? And the sort of journey in terms of how I even got into the idea of video is interesting because when I was, I suppose, younger, I ran a music blog, right? So with that music blog, I would write about all the latest UK music. And long story short, that blog effectively unalived itself. I unalived it really and truly. And it's because I sort of didn't grow with the times, right? And in life and in business, you have to either sort of evolve or become extinct in the grand scheme of things. And the biggest sort of blocker for me was I was scared to do video. I was mortified of doing video content. Like honestly, the idea of speaking directly to a camera and speaking with you, it was scary. I was it was something that I didn't like to do, or even the thought of it made my hands sweaty and everything. Just I was a mess. But ultimately, what happened is that after leaving my job, right, I went and did skydiving for the first time, and I will do it again. But I went skydiving after leaving my role, and for me, it just felt like that eradicated a lot of the fear that I had for loads of things. It made me start looking at, life from a different lens and a different perspective. And for that reason, I then decided, you know what? I'm going to give this a good go. I'm going to do whatever is feasibly possible to build my brand into a seven-figure brand in 1,000 days. And I said to myself, you know what? If I'm going to embark on this journey of building a seven-figure brand, right, in 1,000 days, it is in my best interest to record. So it was September 2025 when I first recorded my first YouTube video. And yeah, you could scroll down and check yourself. That was my first video that I uploaded, and yeah, I was nervous. I was a nervous wreck. But ultimately, 100 days in now, over 100 days, I am now in a position where I feel a lot more comfortable. I feel a lot more sort of easy. My hands aren't sweaty anymore, and I'm just really embracing the journey and documenting the whole process as it stands. So for this video, I'm just going to share a few sort of pointers, right, of what you can do to be in a position where you can start to produce video content. And I'm speaking from the perspective of someone that just did not like the idea of being on camera and putting my face out there online or anywhere at all. I didn't want to do it, but I felt it was extremely necessary because if you are not familiar with the personal branding deadline, that is the 30th of November 2027. And I have reason to believe when it hits that deadline, when it hits that date, it's going to be a lot more harder in order for you to build that level of brand authority. It'll be a lot more harder for you to build a personal brand and a revenue generating brand at that. That's because with AI in the mix, it's a lot more easier to produce content, right? Which means it's a lot more easy to be more visible. However, in a sea of sameness, what you are going to need to do is find a way for you to be not only visible but credible, right? And that is what I help my clients with when it comes down to building that level of brand authority, to not be caught up in the level of sameness, to be in a position where they stand out as a key person of influence and the obvious choice in their business, right? And in their industry and their ecosystem. So, with that, I think the first thing I want to say is that you you know what, let me go for the sort of cliche one. You have to get started. Just get started. You just have to do it, because ultimately you have to be in a position where you are getting the content done so you can improve over time. Some may look at this and think, you know what, this is great content. Some of you may watch this and think, you know what, not for me. But it's okay, because I am learning and growing and improving over time. However, I had to get started in order to understand how I can improve and get better, right? When I first started recording content, I was having so many ums and ums and all those sort of things all over the place. But it just allowed me to be a lot more concise with the way that I speak, and to improve with my level of camera confidence and my level of communication on camera as well. So you just have to get started in the process of learning and refining and growing your skill over time. And it takes time, but because I've been uploading one long form video every day, it's sort of a muscle that just improves over time. So you got to treat this like gym. The more that you go, the more you train the muscle, the stronger it gets and the easier that it becomes over time. And then you just get in a position where you just add more sort of weight into the mix. So the idea of weight for me would be like, okay, now that I'm doing daily videos on YouTube. Now it's about stepping out my comfort zone even more, speaking on stages, keynote stages, TED Talks, all that good stuff. I will be there. But it takes time. You just have to get started and you build and you just improve and get better over time. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I would say when it comes down to recording content, right? Start recording yourself privately. Record yourself and just record content that no one is ever going to see. Like when I first started recording, it was a case where I just started recording with my camera when I was just walking down the road or whatever the case, and just getting comfortable with recording content. And then it got to a stage where it gradually started to get easier, where it got to the point where I'm just like, okay, now I can sit down and start getting this content done. But excuse me, what I would advise as well is, with the content that you record and that you actually start to have as a sort of library of content, you have to do this. This part is incredibly important. You have to listen back to the content. You have to. You have no choice, because you have to be able to start listening to yourself and just hearing yourself speak. And initially, when I started, it was incredibly cringe. I was thinking, wait, is that really how I sound? I was like, wait, is that really how I sound? That sounds crazy. But ultimately, it's just a case where you get used to it. So the content that you decide to record, the content that never sees the light of day, you just listen to that content, put your headphones in, and then just listen to yourself like you would listen to a podcast, right? And even better, watch yourself in terms of how you speak. Learn about the sort of ways that you sort of speak about various different topics, or if there's any particular filler words that you use, or any words that you tend to use quite often to replace the filler words. You start to have an understanding of how you are able to improve on the video content on the basis that you are starting to analyze how you speak normally. And through that, you then get better over time when you then realize these certain things that you do. And over time, you just start to make fine tweaks the more that you do it. And the more that you do it, the more that you get to the point where you are just now having the camera directly at you. And then you're just speaking directly to the camera, knowing that you've done it maybe 50 times, 100 times, maybe 200 times. I don't know how many times, but enough times to the point where you then realize this isn't actually too bad, because in the grand scheme of things, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, and that's it. We're literally just having a conversation. And that's when it comes down to number three, I would say. You are just talking to someone else. That's it. Just one person. nowadays when I'm producing content, I'm thinking of one person in mind, right? I'm thinking of you. So if that is you and you're watching this, please like the video, comment, and let me know if this is useful, and subscribe because I drop content every single day. So I guarantee one video has to be useful. One video has to be useful. Just one. So please do subscribe. So with that, it is honestly a thing where because I'm thinking about you in mind and I'm thinking, you know what, I want to do the best for you and I really want to be able to produce content that resonates with you, that you can improve your brand. Let me just do this video directed to you as a note to say I appreciate you, and do it that way, because when you start to think of it as content that goes out to the masses and it just goes out on the internet and everyone can see it, then it can be quite daunting. It can be quite daunting, and it can put you off of the whole process of producing content because everyone is going to see it. But honestly, if you just focus on the idea of you speaking to one person and one person only, and you are looking at the camera, think of the camera lens as that one person that you're speaking to, right? For some people, I haven't necessarily done this myself, but they do say that if you are not someone as comfortable to be on camera, right, what you can do is actually put a chair behind the lens. And when you do that, then you start to envision that there's someone behind the camera that you're having a back and forth conversation with. I don't know if that particularly works. For me, I didn't find that useful at all. I just thought that there was a chair that was just there and it was empty. But that's the whole point. We're all different and we all do things in various different ways that can get us similar beneficial results as well. So just try different things as well and just check out different sort of strategies and ways that you can just kind of get over the idea of producing that content, knowing that you sort of have an approach of doing it right. The first sort of advice that I shared is similar to what I've done, but there's so many various different sort of tips and techniques that you can incorporate within yourself to be able to speak on the camera, right? And then where are we at? I'll say number four, I believe. So number four, I would say that you need to stop thinking about what other people are going to say. And that one is really tricky. That one caught me a lot in the first instance when it came down to producing content. I spent too much time thinking about what other people are going to think about my content, whether they'll laugh at the content, whether they will find it interesting, whether they'll feel like it'll be relevant. All those sort of things are going through my mind. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because your target audience, they need to hear what you have to say, right? The sort of people who are going to laugh at your content or say anything remotely negative about your content, they were never meant to watch it in the first place. So that's got nothing to do with you, right? You are focusing on being able to produce this content for people that need to see it and for people that need to hear it. And consider that your tribe, consider that your community of people who really check in for you and they want to know exactly what you're thinking. They want to know how you are able to help them with a particular issue, right? And when you start to think of it like that, and then you start to think of that one particular person in mind, like I mentioned, then you start to not really care or really think about the thoughts and opinions of others. More so when they are not in a position where they are doing any of this sort of stuff that you're doing or that you're working towards, then even more so, it definitely doesn't even make a difference to what they have to say as well, because they are sort of consumers in the process. And that's why I get to number five, right? You have to be in the process where you start thinking like a creator and a consumer, or rather than a consumer. With a creator, you get in the process of you just enjoying the process of creating content, right? More so than you consume the content. When you get in the process of consuming more than you're creating, it just becomes a thing where you just don't do enough of it to just get more aligned with what you're talking about or more comfortable with the process of doing that. And when you get in that approach as well, you get so much additional sort of feedback loops and all those various different things from different sources, but you just haven't taken the time to really figure out your sort of approach of how you do different things and how you are able to produce the content that makes the most sense for you and how you are able to develop your own sort of skills and your own sort of strategy and how to incorporate the video content. And what I would say as well is for number six is, don't feel that everything has to be perfect straight away, because with this content thing, and it's interesting, you can be doom scrolling and you can be coming across some amazing sort of content, short form content that is amazing with the editing and the content, the way it's produced, right? If you are not in that sort of space yet, do not let that stop you from getting started, right? Because ultimately, you can wait until you're ready. But then, if that's the case, you're never going to get started, because there's always going to be particular obstacles in mind or particular things that you may have not overcome yet, or you're just not particularly ready yet. So you just need to just do it and get over the idea of how you want the content to look, because you have to get started and then improve over time. When when I first started recording content, right, you can scroll back and look at my first video. There was no backdrop, there was nothing behind me. It was literally just a blank wall, and that was it. And I was thinking to myself, I need to make it look nice, I need to make it look impressive. But then if I sort of sat there waiting for the backdrop to look good for me to start recording, I would never have got to a stage where I've just done the reps, done enough reps for me to understand how I can improve on my content and get to a point where it's just a lot more easier to do in the process of doing that, right? So with that, I would say, where are we at number seven? Right now, I'm just going on top of the dome with this one as well. So number seven, I would say, don't be thinking about all the sort of equipment that you need to buy to get ready, or the tools and all those sort of things, right? Honestly speaking, you just need your camera. If you got an iPhone, just a decent iPhone camera, a microphone as well, and just position it and a tripod potentially. You just need the bare minimal in order to get started. And over the sort of weeks, months, years, or whatever, how long you decide to produce content and get in the process where you start enjoying the process, then start to invest in new tools and new equipment. But only until you start to build up your sort of reps of how you are able to produce said content. Because you could be buying the flashiest equipment, the best camera in the game, the best microphone in the game, the best lights in the game. You need lights as well. Matter of fact, I didn't mention lights is a go to. It's a go to. But like I said, don't focus on just getting all the equipment and then not realizing that you yourself, you need to think of yourself as the main the main piece of equipment that is necessary, because without you, none of this equipment does anything. You need to be the person in center, to be the one speaking and sharing your thoughts and expertise for these things to even occur, right? So don't let that stop you in that approach. So where are we at now? Number eight. Are we at number eight? I'm gonna get to 10 and I'm gonna end this video. Number eight will be, do not worry about the views, right? Don't worry about the views, because the views, if you spend too much time looking at the views based on your sort of ambitions and where you want to take it to, you're going to be so caught up with the numbers that you're not going to go and focus on the duration of the journey. You're not going to focus on what it means to persevere and to build that level of consistency for things to compound, because you're always going to look at the numbers as a sort of marker of if the video has done well, right? And that this is not what this is for, right? With the way that I work, especially, the videos are there for me to be able to build an infinite loop of content, right? And if you are familiar with my videos, you will know that I talk about the whole process of how I developed the Phases brand authority system, which is my methodology that I use for myself and my clients to build a library of content that you are able to repurpose and redistribute effectively in order for it to reach the right people at the right time. So based on that, the numbers are the least of your worries when it comes down to producing content. You produce content, so you are able to then repurpose and redistribute and target to the people that need to see it. And through that, you will then understand that with the content, the numbers don't have anything to do with it as far as views are concerned. You build your catalog, you build your library or your archive of all the things that make you uniquely you. And you are able to then position that in various different ways across the social media aspect of things as well, and develop various different content strategies that align with the bulk of your content, right? So that is incredibly important. And I would advise you, if you are getting started, do not get caught up with the views, right? Just take it with a pinch of salt. Use the numbers as data. And that will be number 9, right? Use your numbers as data, because when you start to use the numbers as data, then you get into a position where you start to learn what's working for you, what's not working for you, and how you can improve it. But you need to be able to start producing said content in order to have enough of the content to then be able to calculate and look at the actual analytics for you to be able to paint a better picture of where your content stands in terms of how you are able to improve it, right? So that is something I would highly recommend. And number 10, my number 10 is enjoy the process of producing the content, right? Because you need to be in a position where you just enjoy the process so you can continue to do it. I I done a video talking about how you don't want to build a personal brand that feels like a prison. You don't want to go through all the sort of trials and tribulations and challenges and all the things that life is going to throw at you that will eventually come off the back of you producing content and being more comfortable and confident on camera without having that sort of inner motivation and that desire to keep going despite that. And that's when I say that if you focus on that side of things and that's something that you hold dear to you, focus on enjoying the process and it will ultimately just get easier and better over time, because you are doing it with a sort of long sort of duration of a campaign, like I talk about with the campaign brand. And that's the reason why I've been so focused on what I've been doing content wise, but I've been enjoying the process because my ultimate why is a 1,000-day journey in that sense. So I've given myself literally 1,000 days of content to produce. So with that, every day is something for me to improve on, to build on, to talk about various different topics that align with the main things I'm focused on, being PR, marketing, and branding. And it's just an opportunity for me to document the process and to showcase my efforts and ultimately to leave a blueprint that will allow people to understand what it means to build a 7-figure brand in 1,000 days. And that is the reason why this has been a journey for me, that I've enjoyed the process, because I've come a long way from being someone very much not looking forward to being on camera to now being someone who drops content on a daily basis. That transition compared to where I was to where I'm at now is so different. It's crazy. I look back sometimes and I always think to myself, I don't know how I managed to get from there to there. But what I can say, it is through those 10 things that I've mentioned in this video, and mainly the consistency and the level of perseverance. You know, give yourself time. This stuff isn't easy, but then the more that you do it, the more you improve. But you need to give yourself grace, but then you need to give yourself the time to build and improve and to focus on the bigger mission at hand. So I hope this video helped, right? I just said, you know what, let me just drop a quick video and drop 10 sort of pointers that I would give to someone who is looking to produce video content, but they're feeling quite anxious, so they're not too sure of, the best way to go about it, or they need a few tips and advice or a few pointers. So I hope that helped. If you got to the end of this video, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, right? And I will catch you tomorrow. Peace out. Look after yourself.